Hi there, welcome to Victim to Victor, the podcast dedicated to empowering abuse survivors and inspiring healing, hope, and positive change. I'm Verma, a published author, and in every episode, I'll sit down with a guest and embark on an insightful conversation about trauma, as well as practical strategies to start the healing process. So let's get started. I hope you enjoy the show. And here is Mr. Paul Quinton, all the way from Surrey, and the founder of Alignment Modality. How are you, Paul?
I'm good, thank you, Nu. Lovely to be on. It's great to catch up.
Oh, likewise. Thank you so much for your time today. And it's great, again, to talk to a fellow Brit.
Exactly. It's all so international at the moment.
Yeah, I know. Thank God for, obviously, the internet and Zoom and just these platforms like Instagram, just the amount of friends that we make all over the world.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, but I'm really keen today to find out more about, what you do, because, we spoke about, conscious living. And for me, that's so important in this day and age, because I just feel majority of people, they're still so unconscious. They're walking around, just not even being present, still stuck in the past. So I feel that, today's talk is going to be very inspiring indeed. I'm really excited.
Yes, no, definitely. Look forward to it.
Yeah. So please tell us about yourself, where you're from and what led you to this line of work.
Okay, so so basically I grew up in a family of psychics, healers. We all sort of dabbled in this. So my early introduction into the esoteric was where we would do seances as a child. I would do it with my family, just sort of once a week. We'd sort of help stuck souls and sort of move on. So it was my sort of doorway into to the invisible world, shall we say. So I sort of grew up with, that was my sort of basis. We went to the spiritualist church here and there, which was different to a normal church, obviously, because you'd have a reader up there and they'd bring messages through. So it was always very interesting. So it's very much part of who I was. I really enjoyed it. That sort of led me into the healing world later on. Obviously, I was a teenager. I had my human experience. I was in the military. I was traveling around the world for a couple of years. And then I sort of, probably 22, 23 years ago now, I started to do this as a full-time job. So I did a lot of different modalities, cranial sacral theta, Reiki, Seishin, Rashiba, loads of different ones, did foundational psychotherapy. So I had a collection of tools. And then that sort of led me to where I'm at today. And obviously in the last sort of 20, I've had my own business, just working with my individual clients, doing some workshops and stuff. In the last few years, I've been very much instrumental in the channeling process, so bringing through different books, information for a teaching platform, which is the Alignment Modality, which I've now patented and it's insured in 45 countries, I think it is now. So it's got its recognition. So I'm a proper training provider for that. And this is very much bringing a lot of the old information that we've lost over thousands of years. Because if you think about it, modern medicine just came in and said, right, debunk what we've been doing for hundreds of thousands of years, and we're going to follow this model, which is fine because it's all divinely orchestrated. But we lost touch with the natural healing process. So this is really about bringing back the natural stuff that's been instrumental in our civilizations, and getting people into a place where they don't have to be dependent on other people, where the power resides within them. So we create a sacred space for them to sort of remember how powerful they are. And we don't talk about this whole ascension process. We're actually becoming more grounding the spirit into the body, or the soul into the body, so you can have spiritual realization whilst in a physical body. And of course, with that sort of analogy, it brings through the way the world works, why we've manifested certain illnesses, abuse patterns, why we keep repeating things, why we keep bringing the same sort of relationships in, or the same issues at work. So we talk about the magnetics of this planet, and how consciousness can work through that. And then there's a few different tools that we use as well. So that's it in a nutshell. Obviously, there's a lot more to it, but that's yeah. So that's it. So at the moment, yes, I'm doing my one-on-one still, and I'm teaching the alignment modality, which is 4 parts.
Oh, fantastic! So tell us more about alignment modality.
Yeah. So basically, again, from spirit, you know, the main thing is that the directive for every human being at the moment is to have soul realization whilst in the physical body. Now, the only way we can do that is to clear the emotional body and clear the ancestral line. So once those two are clear, then we can start to awaken. So basically, alignment modality is teaching us that this realm already exists around us, and our consciousness is now moving into it. And this is what's going on around the planet.
Yeah.
Obviously, COVID was a big instrumental in change, because it brought people into that sort of that 9-to-5 slave model. It's brought us out of that. It's taught us to go within, you know, have a different way of life, way of thinking. We're still in the infancy of that. There's still the chaos going on. But this is all of these things happening on the planet are there to bring us into alignment with the new earth, the golden age, as they call it, which we are moving into. We're seeing it everywhere. So this really is about bringing the feminine energy back into the body. Obviously, it's happening on a macro level around the planet. Obviously, Me Too environment was a big part of that. Women's rights, but this is that, you know, that's just the physical side of it. But what we're talking about is a divine feminine energy, which is the energy of which creates everything in the universe, which is what we call the void, the black ray. You know, so we're bringing that energy in. So we're also balancing the male and female energy in the body, because that's out of alignment too. Now, when misinformation is used, obviously, against the masses, this is what creates cellular division. And when you have cells divided, you cannot ground consciousness in the body. So this is all about oscillation. So we teach this oscillation process in the modality, which gets everything moving. Because the reason we have patterns or magnetic patterns or belief systems or illnesses is because we have unilateral emotional holds, say, for example, in an organ. So once we get that swinging, it allows consciousness then to move in, and this sort of starts the healing process. But this is all really about empowering people, because as a healer, we can't actually heal anyone. No one can take away your pain. We provide a platform and a space to do that. So we're redefining the whole New Age movement, because there's a lot of misinformation in there, making things simple, because the bulk of information I brought through is very, very, there's a lot of it, and it's just too much. And they've said, you know, the last thing human beings need is another full set of rules and procedures to achieve enlightenment. So it's just like, you know, we've got to keep it simple. They said, you know, make it for the man on the street, because there's a lot of people, like you were saying, people unconscious, because, you know, the problem is that the most dangerous person on the planet is the man or woman walking around on the street with a closed down heart. Because if the heart's closed, the spirit cannot anchor in the body. Now, if the heart is closed, then of course we can't have our emotions cannot come in alignment with our physical body. Now, if they're out of alignment, because the emotions have to be present in the physical body for the meridian system, which is the blueprint of what our body is built upon, to be active. And then when that's active, the heart can open. So this is really about getting people to clear the trauma in a way where it's safe, where they don't have to, because a lot of people don't want to feel it. Basically, it's the truth. You know, as a therapist, it's very hard for people to go into it and relive it. So this is a way of getting people to come into that place, but they also get like a lot of work describing why they've had these patterns, and then it takes that fear away of facing it. Because it goes, oh, okay, well, I created this, so I have the power to change it. So we start to get the thinking reversed. And once people are in that place, it's very easy then to take on the bulk of what we're teaching. And it naturally flows. It naturally flows. And why it's split up into 4 modules is we have to prepare certain parts of the body, the psyche and the emotions ready for the next module. Because you can't open things up too fast, because that's when people go into a lot of panic as well.
Okay. Wow. So does this kind of take away from having to have like mainstream therapy, talking therapy?
Well, I think, you know, everything has its place.
Yeah.
But because we're moving into the world of vibrational medicine now, like, for example, I don't work with belief systems anymore, because a lot of times you clear the belief system, what happens is the emotional charge that created the belief system in the first place, that has to be resolved through energy. You can't take that away. So there has to be an energy conduit. This is why people will stay in therapy for 20, 30, 40 years. It's because of that. It's like the pee in the mattress. It's that emotional energy. And the belief systems can come back, you see. So we wipe out the emotional charge, then the belief system falls away anyway, because it's actually not in alignment with the soul. It's part of the illusionary world. It's part of misinformed of why that happened in the first place. So when you teach the magnetics that everything happens to you've created, takes away the judgment. It also gives people the power to go, well, I created it, I can fix it. So that's the analogy of it. So yeah.
That's fantastic. And I just love this, the fact that you're really hitting home on the fact that, you know, we are just a bundle of energy, and we really need to nurture our energy and, you know, look after ourselves and really align with, you know, the intuition, because, and I know that's something that a lot of survivors do actually forget to do, is to actually listen to their intuition, because they're just so stuck in their head. And that's why you keep repeating those mistakes over and over and over. So
exactly.
And it takes a lot of, like, for me, it took a lot of courage and a lot of you know, real kind of willpower and belief in myself to actually, you know, snap away from that pattern. And I guess by coming to you can really help with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because once you realize the magnetics, like I said, it takes your intuition will strengthen in this. We all have a voice in ourselves, and that voice becomes very present, and it actually brings a lot of empowerment and confidence to then face what you haven't transformed. Because a lot of people, if you're stuck in your ego consciousness, which is really a very small percentage of our awareness, and the mind is fickle, isn't it? The ego mind. So you're constantly changing. It's, you know, but if you can get the ego, and the analogy is, right, so we can't get rid of the ego. The ego is divine. It's there for a reason, right? So what we say, the analogy is that we have the heart, the soul, and the ego. So instead of the egos driving the bus for probably 90% of the population most of the time, right? Yeah. So we say, well, the ego sits at the back of the bus, the soul drives the bus, and the heart is the guide. So this analogy is good because you can't get rid of the ego, because the ego is connected to the mind. Now, the mind's gift is imagination. Now, imagination is the most powerful tool we have. And this is why they were calling Einstein, said he was going mad, because he was breaking away from that very sort of controlled environment and saying, no, if I didn't have inquisitiveness, or put my hand up and go, well, why is that star shining? It's the inquisitiveness that then draws through the imagination. And then you're starting to work with algorithms of 1 and 0, which is the divine masculine and feminine. Once you're connected to that, everything is manifested through the unconscious, through the imagination. So we're taught to shut that down as a child. You know, once we go to school, it becomes very left brain. You know, kids use imagination. They know that their life is created through imagination. They know when they imagine something, that's what creates their playtime. So, and that's very, very powerful, and we've forgotten that. So it's so we teach imagination. Absolutely. Yeah.
And like you said,
and it's, even when we say that, people go, well, I can't visualize.
Yeah.
And this is the problem. So we say, imagine what you're visualizing. Just imagine it's there. You don't actually have to visualize it, because it's intention. You see, intention is the foundation of all outcomes in all universes.
It is.
Sorry,
and it's the fact that, you know, we've forgotten to actually tune into our playful side. And just by having a child, for me, was a blessing, because, oh my God, I was so serious and just such an adult. And I'm so glad now that I can be a child again, you know? It's like,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it helps. Yeah. Well, that's where our power lies, in our sensitivity, our vulnerability. You know, I keep saying to people, it's like, you know, you go to a talk, there's someone talking about whatever, and it's like scripted, or they're talking from their ego, or it's to sell something. But when someone gets, and people sort of switch off, and even egotistical people, like, oh yeah, whatever. But as soon as someone gets up there and is vulnerable, and speaks the truth about themselves, everyone looks at them. Because it's that sensitivity and vulnerability that everyone is searching to reconnect within themselves. And it bypasses that ego. And I watch people, and you can see them change when someone, and it's amazing. And people are like, oh my God, you know, they're fixated. And you know, and for a person to stand up and speak that, it takes a lot of courage. But that's also what everyone's searching for, is that to be truthful, to show the world their real face. You know, because we're all masked, aren't we? So it's but the power lies in our sensitivity and vulnerability. Yeah. But again, that's told, especially men, don't be sensitive, don't be vulnerable, shut it down, you know, get on with things.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the powerhouse.
That is, yeah. I mean, because you're in the process of writing the book at the moment, aren't you?
Yeah, well, I've already written, just because of COVID, my publishers still looking for publishers at the moment. Literary agents, sorry, looking for publishers at the moment. So yeah, I've got about 3 books already down. So yeah, I'll be writing more. I've channeled through a deck of cards as well. You know, like the Doreen Virtue cards. So I've got different sets of those as well. Very different to the stuff that's out there as well, which is good. And that'll accompany with the teaching too. So yeah.
So, and with your books, are they about your life, or is it about?
No, it's all channeled. Yeah, parts of my life, parts of my experience, but all basically it's spirit's voice, just channeled information. So yeah, but the book in itself, even my literary agent, actually you're connected with her on LinkedIn, Wendy York.
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, so you know Wendy. yeah. So yeah, the book itself is an activation, because even as soon as she started when she started reading it, things that she was reading started happening in her life. So and there's actually an algorithm, divine algorithm picture in there that you meditate on.
Yeah. And
it starts to open up all the stellar consciousness in the brain. Okay. So the book itself, just touching it without reading it, starts to activate things in your consciousness, because the frequency that brought the writing through is obviously in alignment with the universal directive. So our DNA is ready to receive this information now. This is what this whole new earth energy is all about.
Oh, I love that.
So yeah.
And I don't know if you kind of if you use the terms 3D, 5D, because they're the kind of terminologies that, you know, I've been using just to kind of understand the world, and just to see, you know, the differences between those who are spiritually attuned compared to those who are probably still not quite there. And I just feel like, do you feel like now there's more of a divide since COVID?
Yes, yeah. Well, they said, I spoke to them a few months ago, and they said basically the problem on the planet now is not COVID, that died out a long time ago. They just keep creating all these. Anyway, I won't get into all that now. But the point is that the problem on the planet now is division. So that's the aftermath. This is the disease that's come from COVID. Is human division now, and I'm hearing a lot of things as people having fights in supermarkets because someone's not wearing a mask. You know, it's getting violent as well. We had it with the fuel crisis here, people pulling knives on each other. It's this division, and this they keep stimulating the base chakra, which is the fear chakra, which is a survival. So yeah, the division is definitely coming, but you know, that was always going to happen because we have to go through the chaos. But what will happen is most people will hit a brick wall. They'll be sick and tired of being sick and tired. Yeah. They'll say, I cannot live in this despair, this separation, this loneliness any longer. And then that's when they'll put their hand up. Well, they have to exhaust themselves to the point of, you know, almost, you know, saying, I can't do this anymore, basically. And humanity is exhausted. We have hit a brick wall. Yeah. In some ways, we are going backwards. You know, we've allowed technology to override us. You know, you have to have spiritual resonance with everything else that's going on the planet. And this is what happened in the New Age movement, especially in the 90s. You saw a lot of these people, I knew really top high CEO people, corporate people, making a fortune, you know, had the lifestyle. And they said, right, I need to go on a spiritual pilgrimage. And they just gave it all up. Some of them went to South America, went to India. A couple of years later, they're sitting there going, what the hell, what have I done? Nothing's happened. Because they were trying to search outwardly first. And that was the wrong thing. You've got to find it within first. This is again the problem. We have to go here to achieve this. No. You can sit still right in your own house and achieve it, because you need to get resonance with the inner self. But what happened was that if you don't evolve your emotional body at the same time as you're trying to evolve your spiritual body, then it's going to catch up with you. And that's what happened. Is all their fears, all their belief systems came up because they didn't deal with them in alignment. So you've got to have the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual moving at the same time. And this has been a big problem in the New Age movement. People just trying to get this ascension. Spirit said, where are you ascending to? We're multidimensional beings. We're already everywhere. There's nowhere to ascend. They said they want us to be spiritual in a physical body. And they said, you're already spiritual. Stop saying spiritual. You're already spiritual. They want us to be human. And this is again a problem. Everyone's trying to get away from being human.
Wow.
No. We're here having a human experience. It's a great gift to be a human.
Embrace
so,
it.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So you know that a lot of my listeners will be survivors of trauma, domestic abuse, and I just wanted to know kind of what you would recommend for my listeners today. What they can start with, because I know that a lot of your work revolves around imagination. So is there any kind of method or any technique that you can teach them today?
Yes. Well, a simple one, that's what I teach on the workshop, is basically when you get the feeling coming up, the imagination. Now, like I said, the ego needs something to do. The ego is going to try to get away from it, or it's going to try to make a story around it. I'll say, well, this could happen. Oh, I've got over it. I'll forget about it, blah, blah, blah. What you need to do is you need to use that voice, but create an imagination. So what we do is we give a color or shape in your imagination. You see it at a distance, create that illusion of space, because all transformation needs is space to do it. Okay. So this gives the mind something to do. Now, when the feeling comes up, and this is one thing that's never been taught really properly, is that emotions are conscious. You can actually talk to emotions. Sometimes I will go and talk to anger in a client for 10 minutes, and they're like, oh, are you still there? I'll say, yeah, I'm having a conversation with anger or your anger. And it tells me the whole story, because it bypasses their ego, and you can see a lot more, and it takes you into the root of it all. So basically, the imagination, you give it a color and shape. So for example, this fear comes up from the abuse, right? So I feel the fear, I acknowledge it, it's there, and just acknowledge it, thank it for being there. And in the imagination, you give it a color and say, fear now represents that color and shape. It could be a black triangle, okay? That's fear. So I've created this illusion in my mind. I observe it. Now, the love comes from, because if you can only transform with love, okay? Now, this is the hard part, getting people to love this. So I'd have to sort of give a lot more detail on that, but love is a transformer. You can't transform it with fear or anger or resentment. And the gratitude is, if you're grateful, and consciousness works with gratitude, all right? So when you're grateful, you bring more gratitude, more things to you, okay? So it's the same energy. This is a consciousness. So the gratitude is, if you couldn't feel it, you couldn't transform it. So you're grateful for feeling it in the moment. And that's when it's most powerful. And I've taught this to a lot of people, where that fear can overtake their whole day. They wake up with it and it's there till they go to sleep. This technique, if it's done with sincerity and intention, you can transform that fear in 5-10 minutes. You may have to do it many times, but it will go very quickly. And what that brings is rapport with the process. It brings empowerment, because you go, wow, I've been living like this for years, but I've just transformed that in 5-10 minutes. That's the difference. And then people get excited. Excitement is the soul energy. They go, all right, I want more of this. And they go, I'm stronger now. I can deal with what's gone on. And it naturally happens. It naturally happens because the soul is very powerful. So we're introducing you back to the energy that keeps your heart beating, that created this universe. So it's the best energy to work with, So for example, then you would breathe, and you just breathe into it. Thank you, love you, thank you, I'm grateful. And you just observe it. And just keep observing. Now, the mind's going to come in and go, right, oh, I want to understand this, or I don't want to deal with it. But if you just keep breathing through, and this is what yogis have been teaching for thousands of years, the breath is actually what transforms the emotion. Because when the more present you are, more relaxed you are, that emotion will then leave you. And another thing people don't understand is that emotions do not want to be attached to you any longer. Right. People fear them. They think they're gonna attack them. These people have this conscious about emotions attacking them or debilitating them. No, it's the opposite. They're sick and tired of being stuck to you, so they want to leave as well. So you gotta look at it like that. That
is such an interesting way to look at emotions. Actually, wow.
Well, emotions are different to feelings, aren't they? Emotions are created from a trauma, which then creates the belief system, which is what I was saying before. They go hand in hand. The mental and emotional body connected. Yeah. So if you take the emotion away, the belief will go as well. So
yeah, because I know thoughts.
And feelings.
And again,
sorry, go on.
Oh yeah, well, our thoughts come, like, we don't still know, do we, where thoughts come from, but they just enter our minds, and and a lot of the times they can really traumatize people, can't they? Because yeah, it depends on what kind of thoughts are entering your mind. And so what's your views on that?
Well, again, thoughts will be coming from the patterns that the soul has not resolved with its human extension through the incarnation. So, but a lot of the times, the thoughts are your ancestral energies. When we do real full transformation with the ancestors, most people will come back and say to me, the voices in my head have gone, because a lot of that chatter is not yours. And this is, again, what people don't understand. It's the ancestral energy. Now, most of the time when I'm working with clients, the first thing is I start seeing all their ancestors sitting there. And then we start to talk, and then I see, okay, this had heart disease through that, for example, or blah, blah, blah. And they go, yes, yeah. And I say, well, they're all standing behind you. And some people will get a lot of things happening in the house because they're trying to get their attention to release, because the ancestors are trying to release themselves as well. So a lot of this chatter, this mental voice, thought process is coming from them, a big part of it, actually. Yeah. Yeah, it's quite interesting. We're getting into the esoteric stuff here, I know, but it's
I love all that, and I'm sure a lot of my listeners will benefit from that as well. So thank you. And dreams as well. I know, dreams. Oh my God, there's tons of research done on dreams, but again, what's your views on that? Why do some people have nightmares?
Nightmares is definitely, again, nightmares is generally fear or trauma that's unprocessed.
Yeah.
So it's trying to find its way out. Now, you can have a lucid dream where you're actually talking to something real. That's a very different dream because it's right in your face. A lot of dreams are just the subconscious, obviously, processing the day or the week. So you'll have, flickers of what's just happened. But then I have a fear meditation that I give my clients to start with, and it processes fear while you sleep.
Okay.
And the great thing about that is you don't have to deal with it in the waking state. But what you do have is darker dreams, maybe nightmares, because it's bringing up the trauma in the sleep. And we do get tested in our sleep. Sometimes it's like, should I do that? Should I face that? And a lot of times you have the same reaction as you would physically. But that's a great time when you're in your dream to face that trauma in the dream. And that will then wipe it out in the human self, the physical. So you don't have to do it physically.
Yeah.
So actually, when you get into alignment with the dreams, you can actually do a lot of healing while you're sleeping and be conscious of it. So again, that takes a little time to get into, but and trust. Yeah.
I'm just thinking about children as well. Like, I guess when it comes to toddlers, because a lot of them suffer from nightmares. So I'm thinking now that it's probably from ancestral, right?
Ancestral, but also the human collective consciousness is full of trauma. Now, kids up to the age of 7 are still connected to the spirit world. So they're very psychic, they're very aware peripherally, energetically. So they can pick up a lot of that. Their own subconscious is starting to manifest into the physical. So they're having vivid experiences. And also what it's doing is it's grounding. So when a soul decides to incarnate, it will create a blueprint. That blueprint will then, depending on what country, because every country has a different frequency, a different personality. So you'll take on the traits of that, depending on what you need for that lifetime. Then it will lay down the meridian system. Now, the meridian system is the blueprint of the body. It's our direct connection to source, to spirit. What happens is then all of our unresolved issues get wired into that meridian system. Then what happens is the heart starts to form, and then the next thing that starts to form. See, this is what medicine science says. It's the heart. It's not. It's the meridian system first, then the heart, and then the hypothalamus. Now, the hypothalamus is the physical suitcase of the soul. So that is where a lot of the trauma sits. So and then that manifests through.
Right. Okay. Perfect. Oh no, thank you. And so I know that you've got a few readings for us today as well.
Oh yes, absolutely. Okay. Right. So these are sort of channel messages. Okay. So this is old Earth mentality. So these were channeled not long ago, only a few months ago, and I sort of talk about these. I do live Facebooks and all the rest of it. So we are seeing around the globe many beings holding on to an age that's now become redundant. And what humans are now just discovering is the amount of energy they waste being caught up in the height of an illusionary world. The male energy over the next 6 months is on a path of surrender. And through next year, this surrender will integrate with the human evolution. Now, the male energy in whatever form needs love and it needs support. It takes a brave soul to surrender to the feminine. And the more you encourage men in your life or your male side to soften their approach, to take a step back where less is more, you will find a deep gratitude preceding this acknowledgement. Why? Because the male consciousness, as we know, is exhausted, but more importantly, wants balance and integration. And the feminine willpower is very strong, but very gentle, and can weave that energy in a way that supports instead of attack. It can be a delicate matter, but what is important is your intention to assist the male consciousness on your own male energy or your own male energy, that it comes from the heart and not your judgment of the male behavior, and certainly not for your own benefit, i.e. getting your own way or a way to control. Because the ego has been playing this game for far too long now, and it's time to be authentic in all your communication with each other. In actual fact, men are waiting to be approached in this manner. They want emotional understanding, emotional resonance with their intellect, and you will find a scared little boy in most cases. And if it's your male side dominant in a female, then it's most likely coming from survival or inadequacy. The feminine energy needs to be expressed with love and tenderness, because it's within the tenderness where the power resides. The energy is already powerful, so it doesn't need to be expressed with power or force. And the only way to express this powerful force is through tenderness, subtle, and even childlike. So look around in your life, use your intuition, and the right men will reveal themselves that are ready. And if it's your male side dominant, then you need to soften your approach and give permission to the divine feminine to work through you and balance the two energies. So that's the one message. I've got one more. This is this moving forward soul path. So many of you are experiencing a paradox of consciousness, a to and fro analogy, if you like. You are all in a river of expression that can be likened to an undercurrent of water, where you seem to be still on the surface, but in the depths there is movement. And if you don't swim in the right direction, you can be pulled in all directions, leaving you feeling like you've just exited a washing machine. Sound about right? Now, to swim in the right direction, you just need to feel what's pulling you underneath. Which way is the tide moving? Do I swim in that direction, or do I panic and leave it to fate? And this analogy is presenting itself now on a global stage, and more human beings are starting to feel the undercurrent. The vibration is speeding up, and no one can deny this any longer. You are all starting to experience your shadow selves as they try to rise to the surface, bathing in the sunshine. But many on the planet don't want to look beneath the water. They are scared of what is lurking on the ocean floor. Now, if you feed a shark, you can swim next to it. You have acknowledged its craving, its temperament. You have nourished the shark, and in return, it won't bite you. So your shadows are asking you to nourish them, and in return, you can feel safe around that which is denied. It won't bother you anymore. And as we've mentioned in previous channelings, fear is looking for love, its opposite buddy, which is love. Fear and love are the same consciousness at different ends of a spectrum. So fear wishes you to love it, to embrace it, to not deny it any longer. It no longer wishes to be part of your experience. And from the heart of fear, it implores you to release it so it may move on and be free. So you are not your mind, you are not your belief systems, and you are certainly not physical beings at heart. It's time to embrace these fundamental truths and do yourselves a favor and let go of the illusion that you are less than, that scarcity exists, that there's something wrong with you, that you need someone to take care of you. The only person who can do that is you. However, you need to be in alignment with your soul. Otherwise, the fickle ego mind will continue to keep you in servitude of false belief, and the denied emotional volcanoes are just waiting to erupt. So you just need to make the right decision now, this minute, and watch the synchronicity unfold. So yeah, simple messages, but to the point.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So how do you actually get these channeled through?
So, well, part of, obviously as I grew up, connected into the unseen, create a sort of channel. So basically, I've, for many months, obviously I'm born with that sort of gift anyway, so I've just developed it. But I had to sit for about 6 months every night about midnight and just get all this work done to make me a clearer channel. So basically, I just write, and I do it in my healing anyway. It's like when I'm working one-on-ones, I talk to their soul straight away when I get the whole story. So it's just sort of intuition mixed with psychic ability, really. And then the channeling process is about bringing the frequency of spirit's voice through. So I work with a few different collective forces that are instrumental with planet Earth at the moment and our evolution. So it's quite interesting, but it's a brilliant thing. It's like my first book, I'm still reading it now. I'm still learning stuff from my own writing. It's like,
wow. Oh my goodness, isn't that amazing?
Because when you're writing it, you're not really paying attention because you're in a different space. So it's like, oh, did I just write that? Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, I remember because I actually did a mediumship course, that Arthur Findlay.
Fantastic.
Nice.
And, yeah, Arthur Findlay, nice.
Yeah, and it was just the amount, like, I was writing this amazing poetry. I was thinking, that's not me, and it was just so amazing. Oh my God. And apparently it was one of the girls, it was one of their grandfather's poems. I mean, come on. And that's where my belief in the spirit world was just like, that was just confirmed. It's amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
So the thing is, most people don't realize is they think this is home. This is not home. We're actually away from home. The non-physical spiritual realms is home. This is it's illusionary. It's a physical experience, but we're not physical beings by far. So
and this is why I just live by my morals of just treating everyone with kindness, because we are spirit and we need to care for each other and not cause each other harm. And what is it with those who do cause others harm, though? Do you feel that they are still spirit beings who may have got lost somewhere?
Yeah. So I mean, this is it's a hard look. I'll be straight to the point. The hardest thing to tell someone that's been abused by someone, a darkish person, shadow person, is the first thing is getting around with the magnetics. People say, well, when you teach them that nothing goes against the will, that the soul creates everything, that no one can harm you unless you allow them to, underneath. That's very hard initially for people to hear, but nothing can go against your will because everything is magnetic. So if you have an abuse pattern that's unresolved, you will draw abuse. So this is what we teach on the alignment modality, to clear those patterns so you never have to repeat it again. But the shadow energy is in dire need of love, because without the shadow energy, we couldn't have had a duality experience. So we call them very brave souls to go to the shadow energy. How they got lost, how it all manifested, well, that's questions we're going to ask when we leave here. It's just too much information. But yeah, absolutely. But the main thing is, and this is what people need, if you understand the magnetics, if you understand that nothing can go against your will, you take away the fear of being abused by someone, or evil men, as we call it, because a lot of religion teaches you to fear evil, but it's the belief in fear that's the problem, not fear itself. There's nothing wrong with fear. It's part of duality. It's actually the same energy as love, but just on a different end of the spectrum. It's not two opposing forces. It never has been. So when you teach these divides, then you will fear, you will worry, you will get scared of being attacked because you think it's a separate energy. If you understand it's part of you already, then you can control it. Again, we teach this in its entirety. But the shadow people, absolutely, they're powerless. The only reason that shadow works on this is through misinformation, and because we give our power away through fear. So they're actually powerless over us. It's only when we allow them to come into our space. But that's what we teach, is teaching you to understand that you have the power already within you to not allow that magnetic energy anymore. So to be honest, when this earth changes, it's then they're going to need all the healing. And they're very lost. When you go into the psyche of some of them, I've talked to some of the shadow energies, non-physical as well, and you see them very lost, very twisted, And it's going to take a long time for them to come back into the light. So yeah, so we as healers and as new age voice for this work for spirit, we cannot divide the two anymore. We cannot see them. We have to see them as equal. They just provided that experience. But you have to get to a certain level of understanding before you can take that on and understand it, because a lot of people are still stuck in the trauma. They don't want to forgive. They don't want to let go. They want to hate that person, which is fine, because there's still that trauma there. That's fine. That's part of the experience. But we teach you to come out of that in a gentle way. And the great thing is you start to feel that from within. We just open that up in you. So you actually come to your own answers. You come up to your own realizations. And that's how the new work has to be taught. You have to be, firstly, we have to be authentic of our own experiences. You can't teach from a textbook anymore. You have to know you have to have experienced a certain level of that to understand where people are coming from, because everyone's got their stuff, so you have to be empathetic energetically to the trauma. And we've all been through it for many lifetimes. We've all been murdered, we've all been raped, we've all been attacked. So we have that collective memory in our soul body. And a good healer will be able to access that, feel that from their own trauma, and then empathize with their client. Again, it's not something logical. It's just an in the moment experience. So it's a bit hard to put into words, but again, being authentic to your own experience is very, very important, because then with empathy it draws in. But also as a therapist, once you've cleared your patterns, and a lot of struggling therapists, I can't get clients, is because they've still got these blockages in themselves. Again, you've got to work with magnetics. If you've cleared it, you've resolved it, you'll be flooded with clients. It's universal law.
Otherwise, the universe isn't going to deliver any clients, because they're saying, look, you've got too much work to do yourself yet, love.
Yeah, exactly. And this is where people get disillusioned as well. Well, it's not working, I don't know, So we teach all that as well, that you are the creator of your own reality. It's the same as an entrepreneur. Their business is never going to take off if they've got fear of money, fear of success. They can do everything. They can get all the business managers, all the top tech. It's not going to work, because if they're projecting that energy out, they're self-sabotaging every step anyway. So again, it's about making sure you're a clear conduit. So then whatever you want to manifest, because a spiritual warrior stands still. They don't go searching. They magnetize everything to them. So we teach people to become still and just draw everything and actually surrender, because the soul, once you're in alignment with the soul, it just puts everything in front of you. You don't have to do anything. So most people, when they wake up and this happens for them, they step back and go, what the hell just happened? I'm in a new career. I've created a new business. This has happened. I've just left my husband, and they haven't thought about it. Because the soul's come in and said, right, well, I'm taking over now, because I know best. We're going to give you the best life possible.
You're ready now. Oh, I love that. It's fantastic. What a fantastic way to view life, though. Wow, I love that.
We want to come back to the joy of it, the simplicity of what it is to be human again. With this separation, this struggling survival, it's all an illusion. And when all these things that they create, like scarcity, and they put through the media, it's fake, because the universe is infinitely abundant. It's impossible not to have endless amounts of whatever we need. It's actually impossible.
So and again, I think a key takeaway from this talk as well is just turn off the news. It's just fear based, right? It's just there.
All based sharper stimulation. Absolutely.
The news. But then I know a lot of people have a fear of missing out. Oh no, what if I miss some important news? But why is it important? What's important is your own field, your own magnetic field, and your own life, and just focus on your own life.
Absolutely. And then that will magnetize it. You'll just bring everything into alignment. This is what people don't understand. You walk down the street, and if you've got a different perception of life and you're connected, you'll see something completely different in that street to someone that's cut off. They'll have a completely different experience, even if the energy is the same. So again, it's all about perception. So it's something that's an internal thing that you will experience internally.
Absolutely. And look, in these cold winter months, I know when I've woken up on the right side of the bed, because what I'll do is I'll look outside thinking, do I go for my daily walk today? No, it's too cold, so I won't go. Whereas you know, like today, for example, I woke up thinking, yeah, I'm going to go outside for a walk. You know, so what if it's cold? You know, I'm going to embrace it.
Exactly.
And it
Yeah.
it's about the attitude that you portray to the universe. Yeah, are you going to be positive, or are you going to be a bit fear-based, fear of the cold?
Yeah, exactly. And again, a simple thing is that, use the imagination. Anything you don't want to do, or something you feel it's going to be hard, just imagine it before. People do this before they go and do massive talks. They'll sit down the night before or weeks before and just do it every day, and they'll imagine it going exactly how they want it to. And if they're not confident, they imagine what it is to be confident. And you put yourself on stage. You imagine people applauding you, asking you the right questions, not making it difficult, and you create it and you manifest it, because you have the power to manifest that. And that is our most powerful tool. You are the creator of your own reality. So it's, you know, once you get a little taste of it, you go, oh my God, I can feel this. You want more. And that's what takes you into the soul path.
So come on, everyone, let's manifest the life of our dreams.
Absolutely.
Close your eyes, visualize, and just be there. Be where you want to be. Be with the partner you want to be with. And if you're currently trying to escape a relationship, then be in a home of your own. Exactly.
And also another thing is, like, there's this big thing about manifestations and lots of teachers teaching it and stuff. But what you'll find now, again, because everything's changing roughly every 2 years on the planet, because consciousness is changing, so the work is changing. So a lot of the old modality is becoming redundant now. New age stuff is coming in the vibrational, and you'll find that when you come soul aligned, you don't have to manifest as much. You actually don't hardly do any manifestation, because everything is provided for you in the most abundant way possible. So that, again, is another step. But you can manifest day-to-day things, but the big picture stuff is all there. It's all in the contract. So when you go to a psychic and they read, oh, well, at 30, you're going to meet this person, and you meet this person, it's because they're reading your contract that was created before you incarnated. That's all they're doing. They're picking up on that contract, and the soul will have milestones that this is definitely going to happen. So that's why they pick up that. That's how they can see the future. But really, they're reading the soul contract.
Wow, that is interesting. Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much for today. So how can my listeners find you, work with you?
Absolutely. Well, I'll send you my links, but it's my website. Just go on there. All my details are on there. So www.alignmentmodality.com.
Brilliant. Thank you. Fantastic. And I do have all your links, so I'll be adding all of that on to this talk. And so please do get in touch with Paul if you have any questions about alignment modality or gaining consciousness, because I'm sure he'll be very pleased to help you. And if you want another reading done, personal reading, obviously you can provide that.
Absolutely.
Lovely. And again, thank you so much. It's been such an honor, and I've thoroughly enjoyed this talk. I just love talking about, you know, the bigger force, which, you know, the universe, the law of the universe, because I don't think that we talk about it enough, because we're just so stuck in the physical form, and you know, we're just so stuck in our heads. And there's so much more to life, and we have to, you know, embrace that. And we really need to open up our chakras and our energy channels to enable that beautiful energy to flow.
And the great thing now is the energy coming on the planet supporting this transformation. All you need is the intention to connect with it, and it will come like a lightning bolt, because they don't want us in suffering anymore. Our souls do not want us in suffering anymore. We don't need to live like this anymore. This experience is done. So because this is really sad when you look at everyone stuck in that survival mode still. Just pay the mortgage, just surviving, you know, and it's not a way to live. And you know, we need to be living in the moment now, not on this linear timeline, because it's this linear timeline that kills us. You know, you have to have this by this time, you work towards it. It doesn't happen, you get depleted. Expectation can destroy people. So we try to coming out of all that now. That's a universal directive. So
I already know some people that I'm going to be referring over to you. So
bless you. Thank you.
Hopefully you have some time on your hands to help others.
Absolutely. My full-time job now.
Excellent. And do you know what? You have like universe brought you to this field for a reason, because you're so knowledgeable and you really know what you're talking about. It's like,
thank you.
it's so beautiful to obviously have shared this time with you today. And
yeah, no, wonderful, lovely, great that we connected. It's brilliant.
Thank you, LinkedIn.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, thank you for your wonderful work as well.
Oh, thank you. So brilliant. So that's all we have time for today, my listeners. And please do get in touch with myself or Paul if you have any questions about this episode. And as you know, I'll be back with another episode soon. So in the meantime, stay blessed and stay connected, my dear friends. We love you. See you in the next show.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of Victim to Victor. Subscribe so you don't miss out on new episodes, and be sure to follow the podcast on socials to keep updated on what's next, and share Victim to Victor with family and friends to help grow the community and spread the positive healing energy. You may also wish to join me on the path to self-discovery and sign up to my 12-week self-empowerment plan, which will be linked below.